When we look at a world map, we assume we are seeing the complete picture of our planet. Countries are clearly marked, borders are defined, and every nation appears to have its rightful place. But what if there were a hidden country in the world that maps don't show? This idea sounds like the beginning of a mystery story. Yet in many ways, it reflects real political, historical, and geographical realities. The truth is that maps are not always neutral. They are shaped by power, recognition, and international politics. Sometimes, entire nations exist in reality, but remain invisible or disputed on official maps. One important example of a hidden country is Taiwan. Taiwan has its own government, military, currency, constitution, and democratic system. Millions of people live there, and it functions independently in nearly every way. However, due to political pressure from China, many international organizations and some global maps do not recognize Taiwan as a separate country. Instead, it is often shown as part of China. To the people of Taiwan, their nation clearly exists, yet on many maps, its independent status is hidden. Another example is Kosovo. Kosovo declared independence from Serbia in 2008. Many countries recognize Kosovo as an independent state, and it has its own government and institutions. However, not all nations agree with its independence. As a result, some maps show Kosovo as a separate country, while others still display it as part of Serbia. Depending on which map you look at, Kosovo may or may not appear as a sovereign nation. In this sense, it becomes a hidden country in certain versions of the world. There are also regions that operate like countries but are rarely acknowledged internationally. Somaliland is one such case. Located in the Horn of Africa, Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991. Since then, it has maintained its own government, security forces, and relatively stable political system. However, it is not officially recognized by most countries or by the United Nations. On most global maps, Somaliland does not appear as a separate country. Instead, it is shown as part of Somalia, even though it functions independently in practice. The idea of hidden countries is not limited to disputed political territories. There are also microstates and partially recognized regions that many people are unaware of. For example, Transnistria is a narrow strip of land that declared independence from Moldova in 1990. It has its own government, flag, and currency. However, it is not recognized by the international community and is still officially considered part of Moldova. On most standard maps, Transnistria does not appear as a country at all. Maps themselves are political tools. Throughout history, powerful nations have drawn borders to reflect their interests. Colonial powers once divided continents like Africa and Asia, without considering local cultures or communities. Even today, digital maps can differ depending on where you are viewing them. For example, online maps accessed from China may display borders differently than those viewed from Europe or the United States. This shows that geography is not only about land and oceans. It is also about perspective and power. In some cases, entire communities live in places that feel like hidden countries because they are isolated from the outside world. Remote islands, mountain regions, or territories with limited contact may not receive global attention. While they are technically part of recognized countries, their identity and culture can feel separate and invisible to the rest of the world. For the people living there, their homeland is very real, even if the world rarely notices them. There are also historical countries that once existed but disappeared from modern maps. Empires and kingdoms rise and fall over time. Borders shift because of wars, treaties, and revolutions. A place that was once a recognized nation can vanish from maps within a few decades. In this way, maps are constantly changing documents. They reflect the present moment, not necessarily the full story of the past. The concept of a hidden country also reminds us that recognition is a powerful force. A nation's existence on a map often depends on whether other countries accept it diplomatically. Without recognition, a country may struggle to join international organizations, trade freely, or participate in global politics. Yet recognition does not always determine reality. People can build governments, create institutions, and form national identities, even if the wider world refuses to acknowledge them officially. Ultimately, the idea of the hidden country in the world that maps don't show is less about secret lands and more about political complexity. There is no magical island erased from satellite images, But there are real nations and regions whose status is debated or ignored. Their stories reveal how maps are shaped not only by geography, but also by power, diplomacy, and history. When we look at a world map, we should remember that it represents more than just land and water. It represents agreements, conflicts, and human decisions. Some countries appear clearly, others appear disputed, and a few remain invisible, depending on perspective. The world is not always as simple as it looks on paper. Behind every borderline, there is a story, and sometimes those stories are hidden in plain sight.